Welcome to the Erie Wellness Podcast, your go-to source for all things health, wellness, and living your best life right here in Erie. I'm your host, Lauren Brunetti, and I'm so excited to have you here. Each episode will dive into conversations with local experts and wellness professionals who are making an impact in the world of health and well-being. Before we jump in, be sure to like, share, and comment on this episode. We love hearing from you and seeing our community grow. Now let's get started. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Erie Wellness Podcast. Today, I'm super excited to have Trapper Searles on the show. Trapper is an entrepreneur, author, and transformational success coach who knows a thing or two about bouncing back. After building and selling a garage door business, as well as helping his wife recover from a traumatic brain injury, he's been all about helping people rediscover who they really are and live with purpose. He's created the Searles Success Systems to help folks rewrite their stories and come back stronger. This is going to be a real, raw, and uplifting conversation, and I can't wait for you to hear it. Let's jump in. Trapper, you ran a successful garage door business for many years. Can you share how your life shifted after your wife's medical emergency and how that experience impacted your view of wellness and purpose?
So, building a business creates its own challenges and opportunities along the way, which is very exciting. And then having a family and going through all those exciting steps is pretty cool. So once having the successful business and just life in general, just moving along at its pace. April 16th of 22, my wife ended up having a ruptured brain aneurysm. And so she ended up in ICU for 76 days. And then the total hospital visit was 180 days. And so when my daughter and I were there every day, it was just a very quick realization of, what is important in life. There were some huge perspective shifts, and just wondering, what do I want to do? Like, who do I want to be? What is life about? And wanted to create some clarity, really.
So what did you do with your garage door business? Did it kind of have to go on hold? Did you have employees that were kind of running the show for you? What did that look like?
Yeah, so I had a really amazing team in most of my career with the Garage Doctor, which is amazing. We were very fortunate. And actually a fellow Erie resident over there, Brad, was one of the people that he took on a huge part of the business. And then my admin, Jenny, also. And so they kind of ran it for like 4 months. I got involved a little bit here and there, but I just really was focused on Sam and just trying to figure out what we're going to do and how to support her the best we could. And so that's when I really learned that the business was able to kind of do its own thing for the most part.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's great to have a team that you can depend on. But then also, at least you were in the beginning stages of building this business, right? It was already pretty developed and things were kind of moving in the direction that needed to be able to sustain it.
Yeah, totally, for sure. If it would have been early on, it would have been really challenging. But, we were like 16 years in at that point. So we were very well established.
Mm-hmm. What do you feel like you were going through at that point, like mentally, how being the spouse and the caregiver?
Yeah, that was tough. So when you're in the hospital between like the ICU and then going to Craig Rehab Hospital, which we're very fortunate that we have Craig here in like our area. I mean, it's one of the top neurological centers in the world, actually. And so we're very fortunate that Samantha got in there. There's a lot of like therapies and counseling that you have access to. So as a caregiver, or even our daughter had access to talk with people because they really do want to prep you for whatever that looks like. And then with the help of the hospitals getting me right, I would say that it was okay. As far as what I was going through, it was really hard. Because like as any like relationship goes anyway, like any marriage, any relationship, you're going to have just normal challenges and things in life. And then you have this really huge thing happen and it changes every dynamic of your relationship. It just changes everything. And so it was really tough to kind of just wrap my head around it. There were definitely like really good days where I was super positive, super optimistic. And then there were days where like, oh man, like, really fall into like a victim mode. Like, and then there was days where I just wanted to fight. And it was an odd, there was a grieving process also, just because you're losing the person that you knew.
Mm-hmm.
And that's tough too. So that was just like the emotional stuff. And then the physical things that you have to do for your spouse in your early 40s that you just never anticipate having to do changes the dynamic of you as a human being as well. So it was pretty hard.
Mm-hmm. Yes, expecting maybe I would have to do this when they're like in their 80s, but now here we are still so young and having to help out like that.
Totally.
So you recently wrote a book. You've described your book as a raw and honest memoir of a lifetime of different traumas and just journeys. So what made now the right time to write and release it?
Yeah, so I had a dream in August of last year, and I woke up and I just looked at Sam and I was like, hey, I just had a dream. I wrote this book and shared that with her, and I shared the title with her. I had the dream of that title also. Like I'm kind of a dreamer in general, so I'll usually wake up and I have a spot in my phone that's called the parking lot, and so I'll just like save stuff in there. And
love that.
So when I woke up, I kind of put it in there, and then I was visiting that and kind of reflecting on my dream, and I kind of just realized that I had finally figured out like who I am as a human being. I knew I was on a path to that for the last couple of years. But when I had that dream, I just kind of knew like I just want to be able to support people being vulnerable, recognizing that so many people still believe that like being vulnerable is a weakness, and I just really am an advocate that it's a strength. One of our greatest strengths, I believe, is being vulnerable. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, I had a dream. I wasn't even like a big reader until then. I mean, I like reading entrepreneurial books and whatnot, but so I dove into it and I started calling like publishers and, Googling how to self-publish a book. And then I finished writing it in December, actually. But then I was doing a lot of other things at the same time. And so a lot of like limiting beliefs and like imposter syndrome and so many things that settle into all of us just as human beings, like really, were just kind of making me hold back a little bit. And so it took a little longer to get it to where it is, but I feel really good about it.
So did you create like a timeline and then you started filling in like all the different, seasons of your life and what happened and figuring out, okay, this part I want in the book, this I don't?
Yeah. So because I had no idea how to write a book, there's several ways now. Like I know there's a lot of ways you can do it now, which is great. Mm-hmm. So I partnered with a publishing company out of California, a small publishing company, and I ended up partnering with an angel writer, which is similar to a ghostwriter, except they ask really insightful questions and they're mindful about your story. And so my angel writer's name is Goody. She's like the sweetest human, and she lives in Canada, and we would get together 2 to 3 times a week, and we would do Zooms that were video recorded, and then we would talk about the structure, and then kind of like you said, we laid out, I think it started with like 22 chapters. That was probably like the first month was like the layout, the format of the book. And then we would just get together and have like really amazing conversations. And she would ask really kind of deep questions that would bring me like way into a moment in time. It was extremely therapeutic. I would highly recommend everybody write their book, whether they use AI or assistants or just pen and paper. It was definitely one of the most therapeutic things I've ever done, just because there were moments where we would dive really deep into the conversation. And I was like, holy cow, I didn't even think I could remember into that part of that day. And so it was pretty special. So yeah, so I worked with them, and we just finished. So they have a process, which is great. So it outlines how to do all of it. And then, so we didn't use any AI or anything like that, just because there's challenges when you go to publish, and certain platforms won't let you promote the book if you use AI. So it's something for people to know, but it was a really great experience. And then they help you go through the process, so you just understand how to do it efficiently. I think it was a really great experience. And I would say for my next book, I probably wouldn't need to go through like a publishing house or a company. I think having tools that you can find yourself is definitely out there, like super accessible. So
I can, yes, imagine how therapeutic it is, because so many people carry this unprocessed trauma without even realizing it, or just, like you said, I was remembering things that I didn't even think I would remember. So how did you come to recognize and begin healing your own, and what did you wish more people understood about this process?
The biggest turning point in my life of understanding what my trauma was doing to my character, and like ultimately going to start doing to me as a human being for the long term, was really early in my marriage. I just used to be so angry, like I'm just really, really angry. And I remember a time just being really challenged with the conversation with my mom. And I just remember going out back and just like kind of losing it in my backyard, to the point where I was just like exhausted. Like our dogs came and laid by me. And then my new wife came out, and she'd never seen that Trapper. Like she'd never seen that before. And, it was probably a little like scary for her, honestly. And, she came out, and that was like where I recognized like I had someone that really like cared about me as a human being too, was just saying, hey, like I want to be there to support you how I can. I think I was probably like 23 years old, I would think, probably around 23, 24. And, and that's where she said, hey, like maybe you should see a therapist. I never even knew what a therapist was at that time. And so I started.
Well, was that early 2000 or?
Yeah, that would be like 2006, probably 2007 maybe. And I like did little interviews with a couple therapists, and I met Tamara Hughes, and she's still my therapist, like 20 some years later. I don't see her as often, but she's still a resource for me. I'm sure she has like filing cabinets of Trapper. But I'm a huge advocate of mental health and just investing in ourselves and trying to understand who we are, like who we were, why we are, and then who we want to be. And so that was the first time. And then life is just like, you just have to keep working on it all the time. And so it's definitely a project. We're just a project.
Right. A constant project that we're working on throughout our whole entire life.
Totally.
Even like when we have life kind of figured out, there's still things that happen that you're like, okay, this is still a work in progress, and we're evolving and changing.
Totally. And that's what makes it exciting too now. I mean, just being more open-minded to most things in life. It's like, yeah, I'm kind of a go with the flow guy now, where I didn't used to be like that probably 4 years ago. I also don't really stress about the micro things anymore. I think that trauma perspective really teaches you like there's things worth stressing about, and then there's things that just are silly. And so changing the perspective on those things really has changed my life. And I've seen it change so many people, where if you just start reframing situations, that where our brain tells us that's bad or that's negative, it's kind of like, well, it really wasn't that big of a deal, So I think it's just how we look at those things.
I think as we get older, we just have more like data points to look at on how we have overcome things, or just we've gone through more experiences, and we realize like, okay, well, we got through that, so we must be able to get through this, versus when you're really young and you just have this whole wide imagination of what life is going to look like, but you haven't gone through it yet. So it's just a different perspective.
Yeah, 100%. I like that. Well said.
So you talk about living life with a conscious awareness instead of living on autopilot. For someone who might feel stuck or numb, where do you start in becoming more consciously present in your own life?
To start, really, like if it's something you're thinking about doing, just breathing. There's so many free apps out there. Just learning about breath work and slowing down. We're so busy. We're just so fast, and everything is so fast, and it has to be fast, and it really doesn't. But really, you can really slow it down. And so I think that's the first step in taking a conscious approach to anything. Yeah, just your breath, and then recognizing whatever situation you're in and just like processing it. Because what I found, and people that I've worked with recently in work or in our relationships, questions are happening so fast, and like we feel like we have to respond equally as fast. And I think in those moments, you start responding by like a reactionary response instead of a conscious response, and sometimes those are where you make a mistake, and you can't necessarily go back on that. It's happening so fast. Where if in the moment you can just take a quick second to think, like, how do I really want to approach this situation, or what is the best outcome if I do one of these three things? So just kind of like taking that moment to think about whatever it is you're getting ready to do.
Right. Absolutely. Even professionally, I've been trying to not, I used to just say something because I felt like I had to prove myself, right? Like you just want to say something so that people know what you're thinking. But I've almost been waiting and just like until they ask me what my thoughts are, and then I'll like be willing to share what it is.
Yeah, you're creating curiosity, right? And they're like, oh man, like, yeah, what are you thinking? Like, what are you processing? Yeah, I mean, that's something that it's a really good skill. I've always been a talker, so it's something I work on every day, is trying to be a better listener.
Yeah.
And so I think it's a special skill when you can process and let people talk and then sit with it for a moment. And I think that's a really great awareness too, just being able to process the information that came in for a moment and then reacting consciously, like after you thought about it.
So going back to the question we were just talking about, so you said just, what would you say are like some things that kind of come up? Like you're like, I just had this moment where I got like so angry, and it was kind of like this awareness of like something is off and this isn't my character, but I'm obviously feeling this way. What are some other things that people might be experiencing, and it's kind of should be a red light for them in terms of, okay, I need to start being more present and being aware of like what's going on?
Yeah, so I actually am doing a course right now. It's on another tab, about managing stress and anger. So like it's kind of wild, like bringing this up right now, because there are indicators that when we are conscious within ourselves, we can recognize well before like even being frustrated. And like frustration is before being angry, and before you have like a response that you're going to regret. And so a lot of the times, I'll just give like a generic example. So we have 4 dogs, and they're dogs. So, I mean, they really know what they know. So they don't know what they're doing wrong, et cetera. And so, if a dog, 5 years ago, if we just bought a new rug, and this is a generic example, but like say one of them had an accident, I would have been really upset because I spent this money on this rug. This dog should know better, just because. And so I would have elevated my frustration, from annoyed to probably angry, because then I have to clean it up. And then maybe I'd talk kind of nasty to the dog, or I'd be negative or a little mean, to where, when you start having a conscious effort within yourself, your first thing would be like, I brought a new smell into my house. My bad. So, like take some responsibility of that, and then recognize it's a rug. Like just kind of break it down into not being such a big deal. But sometimes like what happens is, in this training that I'm doing, they use like a thermometer. So all of us have that inner thermometer. This is a brand new thing that I'm learning, so it's not something that I've taught, but it does make a lot of sense because when you're starting to feel that, you usually can feel it within your body too, like either, within like your muscles or like an ache or maybe a throatiness or like heat, your body heat could elevate. You can recognize those little things. And those would just be times where when you recognize that, just take a minute, because then you can focus on like, okay, this is actually what's triggering this. And I don't want to respond the way that I could, being escalated. And then you just consciously bring it back down. And so there are a lot of exercises that you can do to just not react in a bad way.
Right. It's funny you brought up that exact example because we were coming back from Colorado Springs last weekend and I got a phone call from our neighbor who was watching our dog, and we just redid our family room, like new rug, and he had accidents the night that she came back the next morning, and our dog had accidents all over our brand new rug. But same thing, it's like, okay, I mean, he's an older dog and it's going to only remain new for a little while because we have young kids and they're going to be coming in, and we chose a lighter rug so you can show things. It looked great, but yeah, perspective for sure.
100%. Yeah. I mean, yeah. And then it all changes throughout life, right? I mean, we're all at a different place. So many people get caught up comparing like where they are. And it's kind of like, hey, like I'm running on my own track. Nobody else is on my track. So sometimes we kind of get lost in that, and then we get we get worried about judgment. Those are all just like little things that, again, with perspective, and you don't learn any perspective until something happens. And so it's just part of life.
So you mentioned the 7 levels of energy. So you're a certified iPEC coach and you focus on the 7 levels of energy. Can you walk us through what those are and how understanding them can help us manage stress, burnout, or even difficult relationships?
So I love energy coaching. I get super excited about it because it's something that I never knew anything about until like 2 years ago. And it just spoke to me in my entire existence. So I felt like I was meant to learn how to do this. And so I get really excited. So I'm just going to give kind of, like longer bullet point explanations of the energy levels, but you'll definitely get the idea across. And then we can, if you have questions about them, I can dive into them a little bit more.
Okay.
So these are things that all of us experience, and we can experience them, all of them in a day. So you don't resonate in one for a long period of time or an extended period of time. You're going to go in and out of these every day, all day. You really have no control over them until you are consciously aware of them. So diving into that. So level 1 is a victim energy, where life is happening to you. So this energy shows up as fear, self-doubt, and avoidance. It can feel heavy. It can feel hopeless. And then you're gonna recognize that this is just a big pain point, and you're very aware of this negative energy, this tearing down energy that's just like, woe is me. Like it's heavy, and you can feel it in your body. And so we all experience that, and there's different levels of the energy levels also. So there can be a significant way of being a victim, and then there can be like a slighter way of being a victim, right? There's just different ways and stages of each one. Level 2 is a conflict energy. So it's like everything's a battle. So it's driven by anger, control, resistance.
Is it like everyone's against you, kind of? Or when you say battle, what does?
No, it's more of like you're ready to fight for what you want. Like you feel like if you don't fight for it, you're not going to get it.
Okay.
So it can feel, so when you're in the level 2 energy, which is a catabolic energy, which can be considered like a negative or a low energy, it can lead to burnout, where you're not feeling necessarily like a victim, but you're like, man, like I'm doing everything, but you want to ask for help, but you can't. And then you're stressing more. you're trying to get things done. It's just in maybe an aggressive, kind of angry way, and then it's just going to really affect your relationships. And again, it's kind of a negative energy. And then going to level 3 is a transitional energy. And so this is where you start becoming anabolic, which is like a building energy, a constructive energy, which that's kind of where we all want to be, is, being productive, making progress on our goals, enjoying life, finding joy in things, being happy. Level 3 being a transitionary level, there's still a little bit of that catabolic, tearing down energy, but it's mostly an anabolic energy. So you're transitioning. And this one is where it's rooted in coping, acceptance. We're starting to take accountability, and we're not avoiding things as much as we would in a level 1 or level 2. And so you're starting to say, hey, you know what? Life wasn't happening to me. I did some of these things that brought that upon myself. And so that's where level 3 is starting to really turn into a building block, like a foundation energy to continue forward. Level 4 and 5 are a couple of my favorite energies just because they speak to me on a level. And so I try to work on, within the tools that I know, that I'm happy to share with whoever wants to know. These are where I find the most joy and happiness. So level 4 is a compassion energy. It's a how can I serve? How can I help? There's a lot of empathy. Service and care drives this energy. It's hey, we want to build, we want to create connection, we want to collaborate. You're leading with your heart in this space. It's not a lot of thinking. It's a lot of doing because it feels right. Level 4, because it's a place of service, it can become a lot because you're not paying a ton of attention to yourself or your needs. You're kind of like, you're in it. And it can, if you ignore the boundaries of putting out too much, it could take you back into a lower energy level. So you do have to pay attention to it, but it's a lot of positive things happening. Like a lot of building is happening in level 4.
Okay.
So moving on to level 5, opportunity energy. This one's awesome. And I love it because, like, I used to be such a pessimist. Like, I was a negative Nancy through and through. Like, I never looked at what could be good. I was just like, I'm a realist. It's going to be terrible. And so, when I decided, like, hey, who do I want to be? I have control of creating my identity and really discovering who I am. This one really spoke to me because everything is a gift. So now we're in full flow. There isn't a win or a lose. There's just growth. So at this level, challenges become fuel and opportunities. And that's what's really exciting about life. Every single day, we are challenged from our pets, our jobs, our kids, our partners, the weather, our vehicles. And when you find yourself in a level 5, it's cool because you can just say, an example could be you're on your way to a lunch that you've been looking forward to and you get a flat tire. Level 3 or level 2, like a level 2 catabolic, energy would be like, I'm upset, I'm angry, I'm going to be late. There's a little bit of a victim. But level 5 is, I wonder why this happened to me that's putting me in this position right now. Like this was meant to happen for a positive outcome somewhere. So recognizing consciously, like, I can call my friend that I was supposed to meet lunch with and just say, hey, I'm going to be late, or this happened. It just allows that conscious effort inside to say, hey, like, this is an opportunity for something. And most of the time we don't know what, right? But we'll learn what later. And that's where perspective comes in, which is really great. Level 6 is a vision. It's a vision energy where everybody is in unison. It's an intuitive, visionary level of energy. we're expansive, we experience significant joy and synergy. There's a lot of collaboration. Everything feels deeply intentional. This level of energy, most people don't go in and stay in this too long, just like everyday normal people, just because this is a higher level of energy where all of the other ones you have to kind of know how to access them to be in level 6 energy and like stay there and understand how to use that energy. So it's a pretty unique energy. Level 7 is kind of wild. It's absolute passion. And so this is the statement of just, I am. And then that's it. Because it's the highest level, it's pure presence and connection to the source of life. There's zero judgment. And with zero judgment, there's zero stress, there's zero fear. There isn't, you move beyond your ego into spiritual alignment. And so there's only a handful of people in the world that know how to intentionally access level 7 energy. So those are the 7 levels of energy. And then within all of those, there are advantages and disadvantages. I won't dive into all those right now, but for instance, like a level 7 energy and even a little bit of level 6, people that access that, and you can kind of like see it if you're around the right person, they can kind of just seem very self-involved, but they care about everybody greatly. And so it's almost, yeah, that's what I would say. I'll just leave it there. It's a place where like they seem really aloof, like they don't care, just because they're in a different presence where they don't involve stress, like it doesn't exist. So they seem disconnected, but it's just because other people don't know how to connect.
So do you bounce to the different levels, or are you kind of like a category? And that's kind of like Enneagram, right? Like you're kind of always in that category, or do you kind of bounce around in some of these different categories?
So generally, like I'll just speak for myself. So I find myself, I'd probably go in and out of all of them except 7 every day, multiple times a day. And that just happens with life. You know, like there could be a frustration getting the kids out to school and, you know, oh man, I'm always running late or I never get the bus. So you're in a lower catabolic energy. And then you could be like, you know what, I could have set my alarm a little earlier to get that workout in. Level 3. Then you could go to work and you have a team meeting and you need to collaborate on a project. Well, then you're in level 5 and level 4. And so you really are just, you're in and out of them all day, every day. So you never fully stay in an energy.
That's so interesting. How would you describe like just energy as a whole?
Well, I think there's like multiple types of different energy. So I'm a unique person, like we all are. So I really do align with this type of energy thinking just because it makes sense to me. Like there's like tangible things I can look at and go, oh, that makes sense. And then there's the intangible things. But then there's like energy that you just believe in, like universal energy, which I think is amazing also. I don't know a lot about that type of energy. But within our positive and negative and our catabolic and anabolic energy states, I just think, and with what I've learned and the life I've lived, recognizing these, and then when you really learn each of them, and then you understand the tools within each one. So it's safe and it's okay. Like there's no good or bad energy. There's no place that's correct. So that doesn't exist. These are just the energies. And then what you can do is consciously recognize that you're in one and how to react when you're in it. So, you know, if I recognize that the world is happening to me and I'm a victim, I just have to try to understand, like, okay, I'm being a victim right now. I'm in a level 1 energy. And for me, because I know these, I do this like on a daily basis. I mean, I'll like have a conversation with myself, like, hey, Trap, listen, we're being a victim right now.
Mm-hmm.
Why? And then I'll ask myself, why am I in a victim energy? Now, if it's to protect me, like if it's to protect an emotion I have, or if it's to protect me physically, then you could say that that's good. So even though it's a catabolic low energy, it's still there to serve a positive purpose. Now, if you're being a victim emotionally, and it's just because of you and it's about you, that's the one where you want to have a tool to get to like a level 3. And then another question that comes up a lot is, do you move from these in order? Like you go from a 1 to a 2 to a 3? And the answer is no. You can go from a 1 victim, depending on your circumstances, but you probably will transition into a 3, which is that center, like catabolic, anabolic. And then from 3, you say, where do I need to be? And if you need to be looking at everything as a team player, then you'll go to a 4. If you need to look at it as like, hey, I really need to be aware of opportunity today, you can consciously take yourself to a level 5. And so because level 3 is a mindful level and level 5 is a mindful level, where level 4 is a heart and level 7 is a heart, like from your soul, you can navigate within and out with, like in and out of the energy levels. And at the higher energy levels, you can start recognizing more consciously how a lower energy level can actually help you accomplish your goals. So sometimes you could be sometimes you could feel like a level 6 where we are all 1. Well, you might have a big project at work where it's going to take everybody doing their part to be successful. And you can't just roll in and be like, man, everything's good and floaty, like you need to collaborate and you need to bring everybody together and you need to create a team. So then you need to come back down to like a level 4 or 5. And then you're going to accomplish your goal.
So I pulled some questions that I feel like people are asking on social media or just out in community forums and things like that. So I'm curious to see your reply to some of them. But one of them was, so how can I heal when I still have to show up every day for work, family, or life and don't have the luxury of taking time off for self-care?
Totally. Great question. Probably one of the most common questions we can get being like in the space we are in the world and in time, and we're just hustling and bustling and we're moving and we're busy. Ultimately, it kind of comes down to an old saying, and you've probably heard this: you can have excuses or results, but you can't have both. Mm-hmm. And so when we dissect the day, specifically for this question, how can I show up every day for work, for my family, and for my life without having the extra time? So the way that I would look at that as an opportunity is if the job is really demanding, how do I have a conversation professionally with a superior and say, hey, how can I make my workday more efficient? Like, what can I do to be more efficient with my time here so that maybe I can get it done in a little less time, et cetera. Now, obviously, our careers are all different. So when it comes to work, getting yourself, whatever you do for a living, you kind of have to prep yourself. I mean, I'm fortunate, and so many people feel this way. Like, I'm really fortunate to do what I do now, and I love it. So it fills my cup every day doing what I do. Mm-hmm. So it doesn't necessarily kind of take away. And so I love to show up. But then also when it comes to the family portion, it's okay, well, that's separate. So for me, I used to bring work literally home because I was the owner of the company, and my wife she wasn't involved in the business, but like she heard about it all the time. So when I started learning about conscious effort, there was a small window between some trauma that I had and my wife's injury, where Sam and I had some really amazing conversations. So like we were really dialing it in, getting on the same page. And the conversation was, hey, I can be fully present at home because I'm not at work. Now, it takes work to do that. And so work can be draining, but your home and your kids and your life should be really exciting. And so if you take a moment on your drive home, or if you work from home and you roll right back into life from home, mm-hmm. take a few minutes to just breathe, do some breath work, and then really consciously focus on separating them. Because it doesn't have to be the time that you're with your job or your family. It's just the intention of the time. Like, how present are you in the time that you're with those people?
That's really good. The intention with your time. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. And so many of us don't have time for self-care and those things. And I might be more of like a stickler on this, but I'm not like a spring chicken. I'm 42 and I've, struggled with energy and low testosterone and like all these like vitamin deficiencies. I get up at 4:30 in the morning, and I have a routine. I do a shake, and then I prep for my workout by stretching and getting my body right. I do some positive affirmations, usually on my second set of those by the time I do my workout for about an hour and a half. I do a TikTok live just because like I have a community that really gets me pumped up. So like that's social time for me. So my wife and my daughter are sleeping still, but I have friends on the East Coast and we do workouts together. So that's filling my cup, and that's still time that's like building me up. It's not draining me even though I'm being active. And then I start my day by 7:30, and all of our days are different, but then I still finish at like 5, on 5:30. But then the switch is there where some people don't have the luxury maybe, but I think we do. I think a lot of times we feel like we have to put more into our jobs than we actually do. And I don't want to go down a rabbit hole, so maybe I'll wait. Maybe I can answer another question. But there's expectations that are real, and then there's expectations that don't exist. And so I do believe, as Americans in general, I think there's a lot of expectations that are blind and that have never been set up by anybody, and they're just in our head. And then we try to meet them, and that is what spoils the time at home. So, answering our phones, answering emails. I know a lot of people in the corporate world. My wife was one of them. She answered emails at night and on the weekends, and she did not have to. I mean, the job description did not say, leave your personal life and focus on us above your family and friends. It didn't say that. That was an expectation she set for herself that did start to create challenges in our relationship. And so then we had to have a conversation of like, hey, you can do that tomorrow. But there was an expectation that she built, and she was already crushing it at work. It's not like she had to do it to like be in anybody's good graces, but I do believe that a lot of us set expectations that don't have to be there.
I agree. I feel like there's a lot of people in several different types of professions that are just not setting good boundaries around work, and they're good employees because they're good employees still, but they almost are just putting it on themselves, unfortunately. Yeah. And I admit it, I'm one of those people. In certain times I'm like, why am I answering this so early in the morning? Or, why don't I set more of like, I respond to emails from like 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. and then again from 4 to 5 p.m. Like that's my block of answering emails instead of trying to frequently check it throughout the day and answer it. So
it's just trying
to come up with like what's good for your schedule, what's good to make sure that you're being a good employee, but then also setting good boundaries for yourself so you don't get exhausted. There's lots of things you can think about. So you've been in Colorado since 2003. Your family is actually relocating from the Erie area, but how can people still work with you, and where can they find, and when and where can they find your book?
So the title of the book is I Survived Suicide by Killing Myself. From Pain to Purpose. And it's a memoir, but also I call it a perspective shift workbook. At the end of every chapter, there's a perspective note, which is really cool. I felt like it's a unique touch to the book, and I think it resonates with everybody. I think there's a story in there that will resonate with you, or maybe make you laugh, make you cry. I think it's a book that is going to bring emotion, which I think is really special. I love that when I read, or I'm looking at art or anything like that. So you'll be able to find the book on Amazon, like Target.com, Walmart.com. So you can go to trappersearles.com And it's just a website of like where you can get coaching. If you want to reach out, there's a place for a contact me. And then any of the socials, I'm kind of all over the place, just trying to figure out how to serve as many people as possible.
Well, thank you so much for hanging out with us today. And Trapper, thanks so much for sharing your story. If you're feeling ready to write your own story or live with more purpose, definitely check out Trapper and the Searles Success Systems. Remember, no matter what life throws your way, you can always come back stronger. If you like this episode, please leave a review and share it with a friend who might need to hear this. Catch you next time and keep moving forward.
All right, friends, before we wrap up, here's the part I need to share. This podcast is for educational and inspirational purposes only. I'm just your friend behind the mic. Nothing shared on this podcast creates a patient relationship with any of our guests or replaces the guidance of your physician, professional coach, or other qualified expert. And the views shared by guests are entirely their own and don't necessarily reflect the beliefs or values of the Erie Wellness Podcast. My goal is to simply create a space for real, open conversations that help us all learn, grow, and feel a little more connected on our wellness journeys. Thanks so much for listening. I'll see you back here next time. That's a wrap for today's episode. Thank you so much for listening to the Erie Wellness Podcast. I truly appreciate you being a part of this journey. If you loved today's conversation, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with a friend. For more daily wellness inspiration and behind-the-scenes content, be sure to follow me on Instagram at the Erie Wellness Podcast. I can't wait to connect with you again soon.